To act like a millionaire before the money ever arrives, the first and most essential step is to adopt the millionaire identity. This doesn't mean pretending or faking wealth. It means transforming the way you see yourself at the deepest level. Wealth begins in the mind long before it appears in your bank account. The way you identify yourself internally determines how you behave externally, and that behavior creates your results. People who have a poor mindset often wait for proof before they believe. They wait for the bank balance to change before they feel worthy, powerful, or confident. But millionaires, true millionaires in mindset, know that identity shapes reality. They believe first, even when circumstances say otherwise. Acting like a millionaire begins with thinking like one. You don't need to wait for a large income to develop the mindset of someone who handles millions with wisdom, calm, and purpose. When you begin to see yourself as someone valuable, capable, and abundant, your entire energy changes. You walk differently. You speak with more clarity. You show up in situations with purpose instead of hesitation. Instead of shrinking back, you lean in. Instead of playing small, you begin to expect great things. Not from arrogance, but from alignment with your purpose. You no longer see wealth as something out there, far removed from you. You see it as a natural byproduct of who you are becoming. This identity is not based on fantasy. It's not about daydreaming that you're rich. It's about believing that you are already connected to the source of all provision. It's understanding that abundance is not something you chase, but something you allow. A millionaire doesn't become one simply because they want money. They become one because they think, behave, and believe in ways that generate value. That kind of value draws resources, relationships, and opportunities to them. Start by asking yourself daily, how would the millionaire version of me act in this moment? Would they procrastinate, or would they take immediate, focused action? Would they complain, or would they look for creative solutions? Would they avoid risk, or would they study, plan, and take bold yet calculated steps forward? When you keep that version of yourself in your mind's eye, you begin to rewire your subconscious to act in accordance with the future you've decided on. This is where self-talk becomes a powerful tool. Most people speak to themselves like failures and wonder why they never rise. But millionaires speak life. They affirm their value. They remind themselves that they are resourceful, powerful, and connected to a greater vision. They don't let external circumstances dictate their internal belief. They may face setbacks, but they don't give those setbacks the final word. Instead, they use every obstacle as fuel to keep going. Acting like a millionaire before the money is not just about mindset, it's about action. But your identity will determine your actions. If you believe you're a leader, you'll start making decisions that reflect leadership. If you believe you're a person of discipline, you'll start keeping your word to yourself. When your identity is strong, your actions follow naturally. That's the key. Not forcing success, but flowing into it, because your internal world has already accepted it as real. You must also protect this identity fiercely. That means being intentional about what you feed your mind. Turn off the noise of fear and limitation. Stop surrounding yourself with people who don't believe in growth. Start investing in books, messages, mentors, and environments that expand your thinking. Millionaires are not afraid to invest in their minds because they know the return is greater than any temporary expense. The person you become in the process is far more important than any dollar amount. This identity shift is not a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. Every time you feel small, you must remind yourself of who you're becoming. Every time doubt creeps in, you must speak the truth about your purpose and potential. Every time your environment tries to drag you back into mediocrity, you must rise above and choose differently. That is the essence of acting like a millionaire before the money. It's the willingness to live from the inside out, not the outside in. And the beauty is this: the more you live from that identity, the more your external world begins to shift. You start attracting people who see your value. You begin receiving opportunities that align with your purpose. You develop the courage to say no to distractions and yes to destiny. The money, the resources, the influence, they don't define you. They confirm what you've already believed, so don't wait for the money to become who you're meant to be. Be it now. Decide now. Live it now. Because when you act like a millionaire before the money, you're not pretending, you're preparing. And preparation is the birthplace of manifestation. You don't need wealth to start building wealthy habits. In fact, the habits you form when you have little are the exact habits that will determine whether you can sustain wealth when it arrives. Acting like a millionaire before the money is about developing the discipline, focus, and consistency that millionaires are known for. Even if you're doing it in a one-room apartment with a limited budget and no recognition, the conditions around you don't define who you become. Your habits do. Millionaires don't become successful by accident. Their lives are built on structure, strategy, and intentional routines. They value time because they understand it's more valuable than money. They don't wake up late, scroll endlessly on their phones, and hope things magically change. They design their day with purpose. They start the morning with clarity, often including time for reflection, planning, physical movement, or spiritual grounding. These things are not luxuries. They're priorities. You don't need a fancy environment to start these routines. You need commitment. If you want to act like a millionaire before the money, you have to discipline yourself when no one's watching. You have to keep promises to yourself. You have to develop focus. Millionaires are not bouncing from idea to idea every other day. They are focused on a vision. They know what they want, and they organize their time and energy around that pursuit. That kind of clarity doesn't arrive by chance. It's built by repeatedly choosing long-term rewards over short-term comfort. One of the most powerful habits you can develop is the ability to manage your energy. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they can't manage their focus, their moods, or their time. Millionaires guard their minds like gold. They don't waste hours in gossip or negativity. They are intentional about the conversations they engage in, the content they consume, and the people they spend time with. Why? Because they understand that energy is their greatest resource. This is where most people get stuck. They think habits are built after they succeed, but that's the lie. Habits are what lead to success in the first place. If you're lazy now, money won't fix it. It'll just magnify it. If you're disorganized now, money will only add pressure to your chaos. But if you begin now, where you are, with what you have, you train yourself to handle more. You develop systems. You learn what works. You prove to yourself that you can stay committed. Think about how you start your day. Are you jumping into distractions the moment you open your eyes? Or do you set the tone for greatness? Millionaires often begin their day with intentional habits: journaling, planning, reading, visualizing, meditating, praying. These are not spiritual decorations. They are mental tools. They create clarity and reinforce identity. These actions anchor their mindset so that no matter what challenges come, they respond from a place of power. Time management is another non-negotiable. Everyone has 24 hours, but not everyone uses those hours the same way. People acting like millionaires before the money plan their days. They make schedules. They block time for deep work. They say no to unnecessary obligations. They understand the difference between being busy and being productive. They prioritize tasks that bring growth, not just short-term relief. That's a habit you can build starting today, at no cost. Then there's the habit of financial awareness. Millionaires know their numbers. They track income, expenses, investments, and goals. You may not have a big budget now, but you can still master money stewardship. Create a budget, set savings goals, study how money works, learn how to multiply value. Money doesn't respect emotion, it responds to structure and strategy, and those are habits available to everyone, regardless of your current level of income. Also, develop the habit of learning. Millionaires are relentless learners. They read, they ask questions, they study success. Instead of wasting free time, they use it to feed their minds. Personal development is not something they do once. It's a lifestyle. Books, podcasts, mentors, online courses. These are all tools to sharpen your thinking. When you act like a millionaire, you make growth a daily priority. Finally, develop the habit of executing. Not just planning, not just dreaming, doing. Millionaires don't sit on ideas, they act on them. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a willingness to take the next step, then the next. Action is how momentum builds. No matter how small the task, completing it builds trust in yourself. And that trust is a habit in itself, one that leads to massive results over time. So no, you don't need wealth to build wealthy habits. You need vision. You need self-respect. You need the courage to live with purpose before the world validates you. When you master your habits in the dark, the spotlight won't overwhelm you. Instead, it will reveal who you've been all along. That's how you act like a millionaire before the money. By doing the work that most will never do, long before the rewards are visible. Your words are not just sounds that fill the air. They are creative forces that shape your life. To act like a millionaire before the money ever arrives, you must learn to speak the language of abundance. Millionaires don't speak like victims. They don't say things like, "I can't afford that," or "I'm just not lucky." Instead, they speak with purpose, clarity, and expectation. They understand that what you say repeatedly becomes what you believe, and what you believe becomes what you experience. The average person often uses language that reflects limitation, fear, and defeat. Phrases like "nothing ever works for me," "money is so hard to come by," or "I guess I'll always be struggling," are said without thinking. But every time those words are spoken, they reinforce a mindset that repels opportunity. Your brain listens to everything you say, and your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between sarcasm, frustration, or truth. It simply accepts repeated words as instruction. When you keep telling yourself that things are hard, you begin to live as if they are. Millionaires flip that script. They don't ignore reality, but they speak to the future they are creating, not the limitation they're escaping. Instead of saying, "I can't afford it," they ask, "How can I generate the income to make this possible?" That one shift opens the door to creativity, opportunity, and action. Instead of shutting down the possibility with defeat, they open themselves up to options through empowering questions. The way you speak influences what your mind searches for. This principle is not about pretending. It's about realigning your internal dialogue with your vision rather than your fear. When you act like a millionaire before the money, you must talk like someone who sees beyond the present moment. Even if your external situation is full of struggle, your internal conversation must be full of possibility. You may not have wealth in your hands yet, but you can speak like someone who expects it, prepares for it, and respects it. Millionaires also speak with precision. They don't use vague or lazy language. They say what they mean. They are intentional with their words because they understand the power of focus. When you say, "I always find a way," your mind begins to find it. When you say, "Opportunities are all around me," you begin to notice things that were invisible before. The words you speak shape your perception, and perception is everything. People who rise financially are often those who have mastered their internal narrative. They've learned to coach themselves with their words. In moments of uncertainty, they don't give in to panic. They speak calm. In seasons of lack, they don't echo the scarcity around them. They declare that more is coming. This is not fantasy, this is faith in motion. It's belief being built word by word. One of the simplest and most powerful practices you can adopt today is to speak affirmations daily. These are not fluffy, feel-good slogans. These are verbal blueprints for the life you're creating. I am disciplined. I attract opportunities. I am becoming a master of money. Every day I am growing in wisdom, faith, and action. These phrases may feel strange at first, especially if you're used to complaining or downplaying yourself. But repetition builds belief, and belief builds behavior. Another powerful language shift is to stop speaking problems as if they're permanent. Millionaires don't say, "I'll never figure this out." They say, "This is a challenge I'm learning how to overcome." That small difference changes your mindset from helpless to solution-focused. Instead of feeling like a victim of your circumstances, you begin to act like a creator of new outcomes. The words you use tell your brain whether it's time to fight, freeze, or flow. Millionaires choose flow. The way you talk about others matters too. People who operate from abundance don't tear others down or speak jealousy. They celebrate success in others because they know someone else's victory is not a threat. It's proof that success is possible. When you speak with admiration instead of envy, you align yourself with the same energy of success. You become a magnet, not a repellent. Even the way you speak about small things creates a pattern. Complaining about traffic, weather, people, or work. These all seem harmless, but they teach your mind that life is something to endure, not enjoy. Millionaires learn to frame even challenges as opportunities. They speak gratitude even in tight seasons. They speak discipline even when tired. They speak vision even when the evidence hasn't arrived yet. So if you want to act like a millionaire before the money, start by upgrading your vocabulary. Speak words that lift, that build, that declare. Replace limitation with language that inspires motion. Talk like someone who respects their future. Talk like someone who expects to win, not arrogantly but faithfully. Because eventually the way you speak becomes the way you think. The way you think becomes the way you act. And the way you act becomes the way you live. The way you shape your environment directly influences the way you shape your life. Acting like a millionaire before the money means creating an atmosphere of excellence, even if your surroundings are modest. You don't need to live in a mansion or wear designer clothes to carry yourself with dignity and purpose. What you need is a mindset that demands order, clarity, and intentionality in every space you occupy. Because how you do one thing is how you do everything. Most people wait for wealth to upgrade their surroundings, but millionaires do the opposite. They cultivate order and inspiration in their environment long before money ever shows up. They understand that environment is not just about aesthetics. It's about energy. Your surroundings speak to your subconscious every day. A cluttered room often reflects a cluttered mind. A disorganized workspace can create scattered thoughts. But a clean, intentional environment reminds you that you are worthy of success even before anyone else sees it. Start where you are. It doesn't matter if you're in a small apartment or sharing a room. What matters is what you do with that space. Begin by removing anything that no longer serves your vision. Get rid of distractions, physical clutter, and emotional baggage attached to old items. Create space for what you want to attract. This act alone signals to your mind that you're preparing for more. Make your environment speak your goals. Put visuals around you that remind you of where you're going. This could be a vision board, a few inspiring quotes, a clean desk that represents clarity, or even the placement of books that elevate your thinking. These things don't have to be expensive. They just have to be intentional. Millionaires are highly selective about what they allow into their space because they know it impacts their energy and productivity. Your appearance is a major part of your environment too. Dressing well isn't about vanity. It's about showing up as the person you're becoming. Even if no one sees you today, dress like you respect yourself. Wear what makes you feel powerful and focused. You don't need a luxury wardrobe, but you do need pride in your presentation. Millionaires understand that how they show up influences how others treat them. And more importantly, how they treat themselves. Excellence is not limited to your physical surroundings. It extends into how you manage your time, your relationships, your habits. Create routines that reflect a person of purpose. Wake up with intention. Structure your day so that it reflects what you value. If you value health, create space for exercise. If you value learning, make time for reading. Your daily environment, how you move through time and space, either supports your vision or weakens it. People often underestimate how small changes can create massive shifts in energy. Making your bed in the morning, clearing your desk at night, preparing your clothes the evening before. These are all minor actions, but they signal order, control, and readiness. You begin to feel different, think differently, and make different choices when your space supports you instead of draining you. Millionaires don't wait until their external world looks perfect to live with structure. They build it from the ground up, starting with whatever they have. Acting like a millionaire means treating everything you currently own with respect. Don't say you want a luxury car when you don't take care of the one you have. Don't say you want a dream house when your current space is neglected. Respect attracts more to respect. The way you handle little things prepares you for bigger things. When you begin to steward your environment well, you are proving that you're capable of handling more. One of the most overlooked parts of an environment is silence and space to think. Millionaires often carve out time just to think, dream, reflect. You need a space, even if it's a small corner or a chair by the window, where you can think clearly and connect with your future. This mental environment is just as important as the physical. When your surroundings are constantly noisy, chaotic, or full of distraction, it becomes hard to hear the whispers of inspiration or intuition. Even your digital environment plays a role. Clean up your phone, organize your files, unfollow negativity, fill your feeds with people who inspire growth, content that feeds your mind, and reminders of your goals. Digital clutter can be just as draining as physical mess, and your devices should serve your destiny, not sabotage it. Ultimately, when you create an environment that reflects your vision, you begin to live in alignment with your future. You no longer wait for external validation to show up with excellence. You carry it with you, and it starts becoming part of your identity. The world responds to that. Opportunities recognize that. Doors begin to open, not because of luck, but because you've created an atmosphere that's ready for them. That's how you act like a millionaire before the money. By mastering the space you're in so it matches the life you're building. Making bold, strategic moves before the money arrives is one of the clearest signs that someone is truly acting like a millionaire in mindset and intention. You can't wait for success to knock on your door. You have to create the opportunity, take the initiative, and move with purpose before the results are visible. The people who eventually rise to greatness are those who start moving toward it when they have no audience, no applause, and no external validation. They act while others wait. They build while others hesitate. Too often, people postpone action until conditions feel perfect. They say things like, "I'll start the business when I have more savings," or "I'll launch the project when I have more time." But waiting is the enemy of momentum. Millionaires don't wait for permission. They move forward with what they have, where they are, and they grow as they go. They don't sit around waiting for clarity. They create clarity by taking steps. Every bold action you take becomes a signal to life that you are serious about your vision. The truth is, your big break is often hidden inside the small, faithful steps you take when no one is watching. When you act like a millionaire before the money, you do the hard work in obscurity, knowing that results are inevitable if you stay consistent. The person who waits for motivation or the perfect moment rarely gets started. But the person who moves without excuse trains their mind to be fearless, adaptable, and creative. That mindset is worth more than any check. It's not about taking reckless leaps. It's about taking calculated, committed steps that push you out of your comfort zone and into your calling. Maybe it means starting that online store with the resources you already have. Maybe it means building your portfolio, reaching out to potential mentors, or creating a piece of content every day. The key is forward motion. Millionaires in the making don't get paralyzed by lack. They get energized by possibility. They see every obstacle as a challenge to solve, not a reason to quit. When you consistently make bold moves, you train your brain to believe in your own ability. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you earn by keeping promises to yourself and taking courageous action again and again. Every time you show up for your dream, even when the results are slow, you prove to yourself that you're serious. That builds identity, and identity is everything. You stop seeing yourself as someone hoping for success and start seeing yourself as someone who's building it, brick by brick. Another key to acting boldly is ignoring the fear of judgment. Most people stay small because they're afraid of what others will think if they fail. But millionaires understand that failure is part of the process. They're not scared of looking foolish. They're scared of staying average. They know that progress doesn't come from playing it safe. They post the video, even if it's not perfect. They launch the product, even if it's not fully polished. They speak up in rooms they once felt unworthy to be in. That's what separates them. Boldness also means trusting your instincts. The world is full of people with advice, opinions, and doubts. But no one can see your vision the way you do. Millionaires develop the courage to listen to their inner guidance. They take time to reflect, pray, or meditate, and then they act. They don't need a crowd of cheerleaders to get moving. They are driven by a sense of mission. You don't need a committee to approve your next move. You need faith and focus. That's the fuel that drives all real growth. Even when the results don't come instantly, bold action creates momentum. You start getting noticed by people who can open doors. You gain experience that can't be learned from books. You build resilience, the kind that only grows through real-world pressure. Millionaires didn't become who they are because everything worked out smoothly. They became who they are because they kept moving when others gave up. The most powerful part of bold action is that it compounds. One move leads to another. One connection opens a new door. One idea creates multiple streams of income. But none of that happens if you stay frozen in doubt. To act like a millionaire before the money, you must move like someone who believes it's already yours. Not with arrogance, but with intention. You walk in the direction of your vision every single day, no matter how far it still feels. So don't wait for the perfect moment. It won't come. Don't wait for everything to make sense. It won't. What you do today sets the tone for what you'll experience tomorrow. Move now, speak now, create now, believe now. Because the people who win are not the ones who had the best conditions. They're the ones who made bold, consistent moves long before anyone was watching.